We're going to do a countdown.
3, 2, 1, go.
Hola, Sooner Nation. We are here. It is time. I'm Flex. That's what I'm going to go by just to make it easier. A lot of y'all will know me on Twitter as Lord Flexinor. We're doing this through the Crystal Ball account, just kind of something that we wanted to do, get things out there. It's going to kind of change throughout the year. More recruiting times. It's going to be a lot more recruiting focused, even maybe doing film breakdowns of some of the recruits that we're looking at, interviews with people, et cetera, et cetera. We're starting this during game time, so it's going to be a lot more, just game day stuff, at first. I think we're going to maybe start slow with one a week and then, think about maybe later on how everything goes. But
we're still trying to feel this out is what Flex is saying.
Basically, and see how all of us kind of gel together. But the best time to start is just starting, in my opinion. So I think today we're just going to do a little depth chart, go over kind of the recruiting class and some things we think on UTEP. Nothing too crazy. And that's kind of, I think that's kind of what we see for going forward in the future.
Yeah. And then just for quick introduction, I'm Grimlock. You've probably seen me mad on Twitter or on a message board. I do recruiting stuff from time to time and play golf when I'm not. So that's kind of my story.
And I'm Nate. I run the OU Crystal Ball account and have for past couple years. And I feel like this is a great opportunity with a couple of great guys that know a lot and know a lot about OU football.
Yeah, we won't get Nate started on his bad food takes yet.
No, we'll ease you into food takes. We'll keep it football for now, but just be prepared for this one.
We'll do one food take at the end.
We can start. Yeah, we can definitely do something. And I think with this group of guys, we all kind of have our niches. I really like getting into schemes and strength and conditioning. I worked with a lot of bodybuilders, been to shows. I did that for a while. And, a lot of the nutrition and stuff, flexibility, movements, a lot of things also wide receivers and DBs on alignment. So I think that's kind of wheelhouse that I like. And I'm also pretty plugged in with recruiting. Graham is our definite recruiting guy. I mean, he's got more sources than a lot of people. And Nate's an all-around guy, and Nate knows a lot on Oklahoma sports and Oklahoma high school football. And I just think that this crew together, I think it's going to be fun. And we're going to have people coming in and out that you guys will know. And, so at some point, some bigger names that hopefully players, etc. But yeah, I'm excited. I think everybody's gonna like this.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty excited about it. Where do you guys want to start off in terms of recruiting? I think that's what we want to start with.
Yeah, I think if we just want to hit on maybe a couple, of players in the class, that you're looking forward to, Grim, and then I can kind of hit a couple players and just give, thoughts about what the staff is doing and things, and we can just kind of wing it from there.
Okay. I think for me, everybody's going to talk about Jackson Arnold. I really think that there's not a whole lot that needs to be said. Archinon is definitely real. I think he's pretty much taking Arnold's place as a true five-star quarterback. But not jokes aside, probably PJ Audibare for me. I've brought this up a little bit on Twitter before, but the guy's measurables are frankly pretty unprecedented for an Oklahoma defensive end recruit. His brother is a pretty strong defensive end right now from Northwestern, who just beat Nebraska this last weekend. I think he made Bruce Feldman's Football Freaks for what that's worth. He is a truly elite athlete with elite length. My understanding is that he had a 3-cone drill that would end up being in the top 20 ever recorded at the NFL draft by a defensive lineman And for those unaware, that's generally a pretty good measure of somebody's explosiveness. 6'4". I don't even know if he ends up playing weak side defensive end like they have him rated. The kid has got such a big frame that he could very, very easily end up playing strong side end. I think you could see him at 280, 285 pretty easily. He's probably my number one pick. I'm a huge fan of Jaquazi Petaway. He's got wide receiver out of, I think it's Langham Creek, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. He's out of Houston. OU has not won very many battles in Houston. That's normally Texas A&M and Texas Central. So, going in and just straight up beating Texas for a recruit is not insignificant in Houston. And I'm just really impressed with him. I think he's really fast. I think he's got really, really good agility. He's a pretty natural receiver. And I'm just really excited to see what he can do as one of the outside speed guys in Levy's offense. Who else would really be on that list for me? I guess you could do it for a more recent guy, Anthony Evans. I'm a big believer in speed on the outside. Our good friend Big Honey is as well. But Anthony Evans, look, the guy's a pretty natural receiver, and he runs a 10-2 catch. I don't really think I need to explain much more on that, but that's where we're at. I mean, if somebody's that fast, you get them on the field, see if they can catch and go deep. But what about you guys? What do you think? Who are some guys you're intrigued by?
I think what I will add on to the Anthony Evans situation is his quarterback situation hasn't been the best. He's been through multiple quarterbacks, and you can even see in that last highlight in that week 0 game that they had, or the preseason extended, whatever they do, that touchdown that he had for 20 yards, immediately out of that cut, there was nothing that the DB could do. He was lost. The ball's high, goes up smoothly, catches the ball never moves. Like, you can just see that it's a very natural thing. And I think there was 3 plays when we watched that live stream that I remember us talking about, where it's a 40-yard plus touchdown that he's missed on. So imagine if he comes out of that game with 3 touchdowns as opposed to 1, 200 yards. So a lot of his rankings, I think, are affected because you got to have good quarterback play, especially in Texas. There's so many receivers that are going to have great stats and great games that, you have to scout.
Absolutely. I mean, I've talked about it with my friends who are from maybe up north. The quarterback play in Texas is quite different than what they're used to seeing on film. He's pretty impressive. Who else would you really bring up in terms of guys you're excited about?
If I'm going to go with some guys that I'm excited, I'm going to probably go offensive line and defense. That's kind of where I lie. And, of course, I think everyone is excited about, Caden Green. But I think the Bates and Logan Howland recruits are 2 that are super, super underrated. And I know a friend of ours, a lot of you are going to know her, Jackie. She lives up in that area. I've been joking with her. Hopefully one day she can go and watch him play tackle for the first time, because we've never seen offensive tackle film on him. But, I mean, a 280 tight end, athletic, and the guys that Iowa really wants, like if it's an offensive lineman that Iowa really wants, there's a good indication of how they've evaluated that talent and where he's going. And is he a developmental guy? Yes. But, Bill Bedenbaugh does just fine with those guys. And then there's a lot of people that think Bates is the best center, and I think
I would agree with that.
Bedenbaugh has showed that he's pretty good at evaluating centers. Rame has a lot of talent. You have Creed, one of the best centers. Him and Lindebar are 2 of the best centers that came through the NFL and God knows how long. And so I think seeing a guy like that and seeing how he gets in, I think he's a really strong guy. And I think you've seen with the 2 freshmen that came in that just being big and strong, that super helps with being able to play up with the big boys. A lot of the issue with linemen is they're just not physically ready. They're just not ready for that every day.
Almost never.
And Bates is a guy that almost like I thought Sexton was last year, that he might not be starting next year, but he's a guy that's going to give you some run. He's going to push other people behind, and people are going to have to play good, or he's going to take that spot. And I think a lot of people kind of miss over that.
That you bring up Howland. I think that you might see a little bit of, I guess, a Logan Howland, or I don't know how to say his last name. You want to help me out here for a second? Unzida. Yeah, I think you're really seeing Bill look at maybe some lighter but really athletic guys now that Jerry Schmidt is back running the strength and conditioning program. He can build guys up, which, if you look at NFL draft picks, is the way to do it, instead of having to rely on a yoga instructor to build his offensive line for him.
Well, you can get big boys and cut them down, and they can be really great offensive linemen. But in today's NFL, college football, everyone is athletic.
Yeah.
And so if you can get 300-pound athletic guys, it changes everything that you're allowed to do in your schemes and the things that you're allowed to handle as an offensive lineman.
I mean, just look at Lane Johnson and what he's done with the Eagles.
Well, and how long he stayed. And how long he stayed at that level and continuing to get better and better. And, that, I think that's a testament, to that. So I'm excited about a lot of the O-line guys. In O-line recruiting, I'm just going to tell you, you can worry about the rankings if they're the high-end guys. A lot of the high-end guys are great, but most of the offensive linemen that get picked in the draft are not highly ranked guys.
No, Trent Williams, he was all the way down at a 3-star, and now he's one of the best offensive tackles to ever play the game.
Well, and even Zeus wasn't crazy highly rated, a lot of them. Even Creed's not highly, for what Creed is, Creed should have been a 5-star. He should have been drafted in the first round, and everyone knows it. He should have been a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think Creed would probably agree with those sentiments.
Well, I mean, he's the best center in the league as a rookie. And even if he's not the best, he's right up there with the top of it. You take it in the draft. You take that. And
absolutely.
And that's a top, key piece of your offensive line. One of the, if you have a great center, that's almost like having 2 offensive linemen. And
so even more in college too. But Nate, do you have any guys that you're particularly want to highlight when it comes to our recruiting class?
Well, I'm pretty sure both of you guys know one of them that I'm super high on. Eric McCarty out of McAllister. Got to see him this past weekend. Unfortunately, got hurt blocking for a teammate on a interception return that eventually came back because of a penalty. But he runs downhill to the football like I haven't seen. And he, on the offensive side, he has broken pretty much every McAllister rushing record. And he did that as a sophomore, which, considering, if you look at the history of McAllister football, that is just incredibly impressive. And the fact that he's getting to go on to play for a team that he has always wanted to play for, I'm super high on him and his future with BV and Schmitty. But another guy that I'm going to talk about is, I'm surprised neither of you guys picked him, but it's Keon Brown. I mean, him being rated a 3-star.
I was definitely going for that next. But Grimm went offense, and so I wanted to kind of go, at least the trenches a little bit. But yeah, Keon, I'm just going to say it. I think he's the best wide receiver we have in our class.
I don't think that's a crazy statement, honestly. I mean, I like Petaway. I do, and I like Evans. But honestly, I think Keon could be the most well-rounded out of everyone in that receiver class.
I think Keon has the upside to be a top 15, top 20 guy. overall, just because he's the NFL receiver body, he pulls away from people at his size. That first cut that we saw from his dad on Twitter, when he sets up that guy, he immediately, when he hits that cut, dude is lost. Dude is completely lost. And at his size, to be able to move your lower body like that and to have that fast twitch and to not look sluggish and slow, it's just impressive. And he goes up, he can catch challenge balls. He went to 2 different camps at 2 of the top 5 programs in the nation in Alabama and Oklahoma. And within an hour, both staffs pulled him in and said, yeah, we're going to give you an offer. That doesn't happen a lot of the time. There's a lot of things, that I'm sure that we don't know that have gone on. But that kid's going to get seen, and he's legit. And that's not me knocking Petaway at all. I'm completely high on Petaway and think he might be underranked. But I think that just the talent that Keon has is, I think, a special one. And I think that a lot of people are going to be super surprised with having him.
I did not. I've been high on him. I've just kind of, he's kind of fell by the wayside to me personally. Definitely, I'm based out of Texas, and definitely am a little bit biased towards Texas kids, so I'll say it. What about our remaining targets? I mean, obviously Peyton Bowen and David Hicks, definitely the 2 big names on that list. I've always felt, well,
I think there's another big name that is on the list because a certain Cornhusker friends of ours decided to lose to the real Wildcats.
That is still just insane.
Yeah, I still can't believe that game that I watched. Wow, but yeah, I don't. Where do you guys, for those that don't know, talking about Malachi Coleman, who
I think if OU beats Nebraska in a way that you can tell that we are just the better team, he's going to be an Oklahoma Sooner.
Yeah. My question, I guess, is what position does he end up playing at?
I want him at tight end, and I'm even fine if he redshirts a year and puts on 25, 30 pounds.
Yeah, he has to be a tight end because when I look
at
him,
I think he has Kyle Pitts-like athletic freakiness that you can put on display. But he's also a Kyle Pitts-like, as Honey would say, project. I don't think he's a project. But I think if you want him to play there, he does have to put on weight. But even if you don't want to while he's putting on weight, you can put him in the slot, as an inside big slot guy and try to have that mismatch, old Gresham style.
Frank Calcaterra.
Yeah, and that's just where you see him. But he's just a mismatch no matter where you put him. He can be an edge guy, and he's a mismatch against a tackle.
That's the kind of that USC was recruiting him as a linebacker, like a middle linebacker.
Yeah, we just don't even talk about that.
I mean, just what's the thought process there?
Hope.
There's not.
There's not one. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Obviously, I think one of the more intriguing, I guess, recruiting storylines going forward is the one technique defensive tackle spot. You've got a couple guys that are just sitting out there, Marcus Steele and Caden McDonald. There's been a lot of, smoke on Caden McDonald going to Clemson. I know he's very, very high on Todd Bates. But then you've got Marcus Steele, who's at Dallas. Kind of a quieter recruit. There's been a lot of talk that he could end up at guard and be very, very good there. But I think that OU is recruiting him with the understanding that he will be able to try out and start at defensive tackle. What do you guys think about those two recruits?
I think an athlete like him, you just get him on campus. And if he thinks that he can be nose tackle and he goes out and shows out, you let him play nose tackle. If not, then you let Coach Biedenbow handle it.
I think that's fair. I think you could see that about a couple other prospects in the class. I, for one, have not completely closed the door on Micah Tease. potentially joining the class. I've kind of heard some things, and I've seen Parker Thune reported, among others, Josh McQuiston as well, that there is some renewed contact there, and I've kind of heard some weirdness coming from Arkansas about what their thoughts are on him long term in terms of I don't know, his communication with them, I guess is the best way of putting it. And I could see what there. I don't really, people are going to bring up Luke Has, but I don't. That's not going to happen. But I think that there's a better than puncher's chance that Tease ends up joining us at some point.
I mean, I could see that as what, a fourth or fifth wide receiver in the class if he's that insistent on.
And you take him as an athlete. You take him as an athlete, and I think LaDainian sees something that he likes in receiver. And we saw some highlights of the Booker T game. He's a true 4-4 guy. It's not. I don't think it's his natural position, but LaDainian maybe. How he thinks of him is different than the last, wide receiver coach. And that could be where that's kind of renewing. And you take him as an athlete and you let him go be an athlete, and trust the staff. I think that's the thing there. But that would be, a great addition. Those are three guys that we're talking about that are just athletes, that can play both sides of the ball, that are just freaks that you always want in the class. That those are the guys that Bama gets, and then puts a year or two into them, and then they pop up on the field as superstars. That's the kind of guys that they are, and those are the ones that we've missed out on a lot. And I'm excited for that. I think another one that I want to bring up, and then we can kind of move forward from there, but another defensive guy is Colton Bosick. I mean, for one, just winning that recruitment. I mean, hats off Miguel Chavis. I mean, the guy's a superstar. And, we haven't seen on the field product yet. But, man, as a guy, you like to root for him. And pulling off the recruitment, I don't think it can be understated that I don't think we've ever pulled any recruit out of Austin Westlake. And we don't get many out of Austin either. And they're never the ones that we want.
It's interesting, I have weirdly a friend of mine was a GA once at Clemson. And from the time that Chavis was hired, he has been very bullish. He's like, look, dude, this guy's great. I worked with him. He's an absolute superstar waiting to happen. He's massive as a recruiter for us. He was a great teacher technique-wise, and being a GA, he know that stuff. And I was kind of on the fence, to be completely honest. I was always a huge believer in Jamar Cain, and nothing against Cain because I think he is a great coach. But I think that decision has really paid off. And I think Vasic has massive upside as a strong side end. And I think that we're really going to like what he becomes. He's got great length. He plays with outstanding technique for a defensive end his age. And I think that if you end up seeing him and PJ Atabare as your bookends in a 4-3, you're going to be pretty damn happy with the results in a couple of years.
The thing with Bosick is having his dad be a coach, played in the NFL. The guy knows techniques that people don't know. Half of the highlights you see are literally him just lining up against somebody, swim move, and I get the quarterback. There's a lot of people that don't understand there's a lot of people that don't understand the intricacies that actually go into it, and knowing even if the guy's bigger than you, faster, a better athlete, it doesn't matter who he's matched up against in the state championship game and the games against teams that were better. Like, he played the same all last year, and that's what made him rise so much. And it's because he knows where he lines up. He knows where his space is. He knows what his assignment is. He knows where he needs to get onto him. He knows wherever hands get put on him, what move do I need to go from here? which arm do I need to push off to? And I just get up through here. Where am I going to have, all these things are things that go through his head. And because it's something that he's done, he's so far ahead of people in the game as far as just technique on the defensive line and learning things, that's a guy that has a super high upside. And I think that's why the staff was really so high on him, is just because I think he's a really, really smart football player.
I mean, outside of PJ,
He's
I think he's probably got the highest upside. Bassick, I love to watch his tape all day long.
I think it's PJ till the day that these guys get on campus.
PJ just he can just dominate. I think he has I think both of them almost have. I also think PJ has a higher ceiling, but I think that it's hard to say because Bassick could have a better career just because I think Bassick's going to be just a stat boy.
I think they're both going to be great.
I think
there's one more recruit we got up though, and that would be David Hicks. So I think that everybody has seen that I have had a prediction on Twitter for David Hicks via Nate's account for quite a long time. I did waver on that once upon a time, and I made a bet over that I am feeling very strongly that I am going to lose. I thought he was going to go to Texas A&M when he moved down to Katy. My thoughts have changed pretty drastically on that since his visit up here. It would have been late July, early this month. The, talk around him greatly shifted. I feel pretty strongly that if things keep going the way that they're going, that he's going to end up being the crown jewel of this Oklahoma class, recruiting ranking wise.
And Grim, I've got an exact date for you on that. You've had that in since January 28th.
Yeah, I definitely did waver on it at one point, but it was really feeling like he was going to end up at Texas A&M in late May, early June. But it kind of feels like you kind of held off Texas A&M.
Well, and I think a lot of people, I think the staff is so excited for him because he's a guy that comes in and he's your guy. He's the most talented and probably the best, because especially when guys go to the draft this year, that inside we're going to need, who's going to take Redmond, and Kelly's kind of, 3 technique spot there. And that's a guy that after one summer with Schmitty can get on the field just like you saw Harris back in the day. Like he has that type of talent.
Yes, he does.
And that's not going to compare him to him because Harris is one of those guys that just had a super long NFL career, and you just don't get those guys a lot. You even have people that have that same level of talent, but you just don't see him go as forever. But if we're just talking about a guy that is in that echelon, that's where he's at.
Ridiculous. I mean, just taking over. I mean, absolutely taking over games as a high school defensive lineman isn't something that you just see every day. I think
his first game, he just had 3 sacks, a touchdown or an interception for a touchdown, and a fumble.
Yeah,
and a few tackles for loss, which that's just an insane stat line. For
it's like this all the time. I mean, his dad is also a coach, for that matter.
If anyone has seen a picture of David Hicks's dad, you see where his genes come from. That man has forearms that are the size of people's thighs. He's a monster.
He looks like he could come in and start day one. It's just that's insane.
He could come be a nose tackle right now.
He played DT. He would not play nose. But yeah, I mean, I've completely. I kind of have been back and forth, but I'm full bore. I mean, I feel very confident that he's going to end up at the University of Oklahoma. And I have heard nothing since his visit to even doubt that team.
Well, I think now we can kind of get into a little depth chart things. What are some things, Nate, that you've kind of seen that on the depth chart that you like, or some things that you want to kind of go over that you've seen with it?
Give me 1 second to get it pulled up.
You want me to get one started off before?
Yeah, go ahead, Graham.
Yeah, go for it, Graham.
I'm real interested to see what ends up happening at the tackle, safety, and cornerback spots as the year goes on. I am a huge and have been for a long time believer in Taylor Guyton. I think that everything that you have heard this entire off season has been basically like, holy crap, this guy is even better than we thought he was, and he's way ahead of schedule. I think that he's really going to be pushing both Wanya Morris and Anton Harrison as the year goes on for a starting spot. I'm interested to see between, I think Woody Washington's got one corner spot well locked down. And then, but the safeties, you've never, I think Key Lawrence is a pretty safe bet at one. But beyond that, I think you see Billy Bowman and you think Billy Bowman, but when have you seen Billy Bowman just get penciled in? You get what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the first two, 3 games, there's going to be a lot of rotation out there, and I'm interested to see who ends up taking those jobs.
I think I agree and disagree there. I think Key and Bowman, I think they're both just locked in. I think there's an or there. I think Key took a little time to get adjusted to BV and just everything change and getting used to it. And heard from some people there that he had a good, last 2 weeks of camp. So you see that or there. Don't worry about that with Key. Key's going to show why Key's the starter. He has that talent. And I think Billy's the same way. I think what they did to Billy last year was a disservice and wasn't fair to him. And he's probably the best athlete on that defense. If you're just talking about pure athletic ability, he's definitely the most athletic DB. And BV has him there for a reason. I think tackling was an issue with everybody, and that's going to be an issue when you don't do it. And I don't think that's going to be an issue this year, So I definitely think we're going to see some rotation. That's where I agree, is we're going to see that just because I think we want to get people run and get people in. But I think when season comes, I think you're going to know who those starters are back there in the secondary.
And yeah, I would say that Key's probably the most. I'd probably say that Key's the most athletic guy there. I feel really strongly that he's going to have a massive year, but as much as we seem to think, it's a new staff. You can't just count anybody out. I don't know. I want to see what happens on the field before I start penciling someone in at one of the safety spots. And I think it'll be Bowman. I just want to see. Sorry, Nate, go ahead.
Well, the one big surprise to me, and I'm sure to a lot of people, was to see Jaden Davis in that cornerback 1 spot over DJ Graham. And honestly, I'm sure that's not set in stone, but that, I'm not going to lie, that kind of surprised me.
Look, I'm just going to do it so everyone knows. We've heard it 1,000 times. I'm going to give the Schley speech on the Jaden Davis thing because I know there's a lot of people that freak out about it, including our good friend 57. Not a fan, but it happens. He didn't look great last year. Got torched sometimes. Looked good his freshman year a lot of times. The thing with DBs, you've never seen a star DB without confidence. The best of the best defensive backs have to have confidence and a swagger that is unmatched on the field that has to be felt. You have to feel their presence for them to be effective. He lost that a lot of the times. Sometimes when, someone gets beat, it's not always their fault. There's supposed to be times when you have help one place, and what happens when you let somebody go? and then there's nobody there and it looks like you get torched. You lose confidence. Imagine that happening time after time again, where your secondary is not where it's supposed to be. Things aren't happening right. Like, there's just a lot of things that you can attribute to it. Now, his height, weight, how small he is, you can't fix that. You can't. But I think give him a shot in his zone defense and just having a secondary that's working together and understands their assignment. And he has the ability to do it. We've seen it before, actually, on the field. And I think that if BV and Valai both think that he's the best guy to have in that spot, they must trust him and they must work together really well because, you know, the secondary is a unit. Just like the defensive line is a unit, the linebackers are a unit. They have to work together. It's push, pull. There's things that react off of each other. And if he's the person that can do that the best, he's the guy that you want on the field because when you have secondary mistakes, it's touchdowns. And that's just, I think that that's kind of my take on it. And I can be wrong, and guess what? BB and staff are going to be wrong with me. But until then, if that's the best guy on the field and he earned it, he went into that training camp with a clean, fresh slate, just like everyone else, and he earned it. And I'm going to give him that until I see different.
I think that's fair. It's a new staff. I mean, that goes back to what I've been saying. Safety. You know, a lot of our preconceived notions outside of Jalen Redmond being good, I think they're kind of out the window. Marvin in. It's the new staff. We'll see how they handle things.
Sometimes doing your job is better than being the best player on the field 80% of the time and costing your team the other 20%.
I think that's a fair assumption.
You know, and that's kind of where I am. I don't think there's any real surprises with me. There's some people, we don't have to name names, but that aren't a fan of the Jakes. And I'm glad.
Oh, God.
And I'm just glad to see, that us supporters of Jake Taylor and Jake Sexton are winning. We're eating good.
Yeah, that is very true.
And
we won't name names. He knows who he is.
He knows. We don't need to name names. But, yeah, and I think this running back room, man, we have a stable of running backs that you can feel good about being on the field and that have their roles. And, man, it's so good to hear Marcus Major getting his stuff together. I think everyone knows he's had the talent, but if this staff is letting you on the field and is giving you props, and Levy said today, Marcus Major has had the best 8 weeks of, anyone that was here, as far as, like, how he's kind of grown. And, to hear that about that kid and just seeing what he's doing, man, that's something that I really love seeing him at number 2. And we know Eric Gray has talent. I think Eric Gray gets that nod just because he came to work every day and knows what he does. He's super talented, but his versatility in Levy's offense is really underrated as a passing threat. But what I think when it's running downs and when it's time to just show that we're the better, more physical team, you're going to see Marcus Major in there. And that's super exciting to see. And another thing that we didn't go over that I wanted to is to touch on Clayton Smith. I know there were people freaking out, other fan bases. I'm not going to speak of that idiot that said it, but we all know who he is. That's talking about Clayton Smith not starting and why that is. And it's because he wasn't at the weight that he needed to be to play on a BV, Chavis and Bates defensive line. He just wasn't physically ready enough for that. And a lot of that is an indictment on our last staff. We don't need to get into all of that, but he didn't gain the weight and he didn't gain the strength that he needed to play the position that he wanted at. He's not fast and twitchy enough to play linebacker. He doesn't have that. He's an edge guy and can be a great one, but he needed weight and time to grow. And I think he started to grow into that at the end. I think right now he's, 245 pounds, which is fine, but he was like 20 pounds lighter, not too long ago. So it took him a while to get going and get his feet going. But next year you're going to see Clayton Smith's name around. I promise that.
Pass rush package in RMT.
Yeah, him and R. Mason are in a pass rush package. I guess that's another guy that you can talk about, but I think we'll talk about him more later because you're going to hear his name pop up and people are going to really see him I hope we get to see him on the field against UTEP, get some reps in, and get to see, what his pass rush looks like.
I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't see him on the field.
Yeah, I would too. Well, I guess we can get into I don't know that we need to go over UTEP and what they're going to do. I'm just going to go give my quick thoughts on what I want to see from the team, and what I expect to see. And if I see that, I'll be happy. There's a lot that you can't see, because you're not playing against the best competition, whatever. But what you can see is the attitude of the team and, how do we finish things? Like, when we're in a 3rd and long on a long drive, do we make sure that we convert those? Like, how does the team react in those situations? And how does our line of scrimmage match up against theirs? There should be no competition. There shouldn't be anyone on a message board after this UTEP game going, yeah, that center might be an NFL center next year, or that quarterback might be an NFL guy. We shouldn't hear that. It should be complete domination by our defensive line and our offensive line, and it should show that we're just physically better and more ready to play football. And I think if we see that, you're going to see us have success everywhere, and I think everything will take care of itself. But that's the main thing that I think that I'm looking for, and just in the second half, running the football.
Yeah, I think that you're going to see a lot more running this year. There are some games that it would not shock me if Levy runs the ball 70 times. I think that you could definitely see that against Texas. Trying to think who else. The umbrella defense being brought back from the 1970s Cowboys. I don't think you're going to see that employed against OU much this year. It's not going to be as much drop 8.
So they're not going to rush 3 and drop 8, and we're not going to be able to figure it out.
Yeah, shout out to Eddie Rossich for that one.
Hey, I really hope that they rush 3 and drop 8 against us this year. That's the OU fans. That would be our biggest gift ever. Is if everyone runs that against us this year, because we're going to run the ball 100 times if that's the case.
Yeah, it's a very front dependent offense. Sure.
And I just wanted to say, don't panic about not seeing Gavin Sawchuk not in the top 4 running backs. He's easily the 5th guy, and he should get carries almost every week, I'd say.
Yeah, Levy uses a lot of running backs. He's done that basically everywhere he's been.
Yeah, we have plenty of running backs, but there's 4 spots, and he didn't have a spot. But yeah, and Sawchuk, man, he did a lot of work this offseason, and he's going to be a guy that you're going to see a lot in the future. And I really hope that we run him a lot, almost like I don't want to run him 400 carries like they did CMC that one year, but I mean, that style, I think if he can get his receiving skills down like that and run routes, him out of the backfield is just a menace. I mean, I don't know there's a linebacker in the country that can cover out in space.
I mean, straight line speed that he's got is incredible.
I mean, there's only one I can think of, and he's on the same team.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I wonder how much you see of Connect this year. Again, more to my point of being really interested, I guess, with how the safety stuff. I'm really interested to see where Justin Harrington fits in.
I think he's going to get a lot of snaps, and I don't know if it's going to be game 3 or maybe after Texas, but I do think that he ends up as starting in that cheetah spot. And I don't think it's because Deshaun White played bad. I think Deshaun White could play perfect, and Justin Harrington might take his spot. And that's just, I think he has that kind of talent. And I think this isn't a new thing to Sooner Nation to think that Justin Harrington has talent. But we've never seen a Justin Harrington that the coach calls mature, shows up every day, does exactly what you ask him of, and man, like I really believe that guy's going to do something, and I think he even has technically another year, so you could see him. So don't even worry about that. But he might get snapped all over the field. You know, he's a guy that can play. You can even put him as a 9 tech on the line of scrimmage if you had to, at his size and explosiveness. He can play cheetah. He can play in dime packages and nickel. There's a ton of things that he can do. I think it's just getting him experience and snaps and getting him out there and just letting him grow. And you could see a big, dividing up of snaps, I think, between him and White.
I mean, Harrington, he's nearly the same size as R. Mason Thomas. I mean, Thomas has 7 pounds on him, but Harrington has an inch on him. So, I mean, they're roughly the same size. So he really could play down there on that defensive line.
Well, and you'll see BV do that, walk him up or, walk him up on the line and do things like that. And that's why he likes having guys. And you can do that with Deshaun, too. White is really good at blitzing and coming downhill, but that's what's so nice about, having guys like that's what the cheetah is they're multi-tools. And so you're going to see them play different spots. You're going to see them do different things. And you're going to have the best player out on the field. But that story, man, I love that story of, kind of how Justin Harrington's came full circle and put it together. Yeah, that's funny. Well, I think that's really all that I have. And I think, I'm excited for the season. And I think also I do want to say, I think we are going to cover other sports during that time, during springs. I don't know how much, but I know Bob's a golf guy. I'm a golf guy. I do a lot with baseball and softball. We have some friends that are a lot more into the softball stuff, baseball, basketball than we are. But, we're going to try to, kind of cover everything and hopefully build a community and do things with that community. We have goals for it. It's a slow build, but, I'm kind of excited to see.
As time goes on, I mean, this is our first podcast. We'll start doing some segments and things like that here before too long.
Yeah, and we're going to have, there's going to be games where we have tailgates probably set up at the game, one year, and there's going to be all sorts of things that, we end up doing, but I think it's just something that we want to kind of get out there in the space with everybody, and we'll do spaces like we have done, and I just want this kind of be a fun community, where we aren't tied down by companies, nothing like that. We get to say what we think and, how it is. And I think a lot of people are going to kind of resonate with that. And we're going to banter a lot and mess with each other. We like to joke and have fun here. And, I'm kind of...
There may not be a drunk Grim podcast at some point.
Oh, there will be a drunk podcast.
Oh, there will be. And that's what, there's going to be OU stuff, but we're going to have a community where we do stuff where we might have a Discord chat where we have, a bunch of members in Discord and we're bullshitting doing, random things like that. There's all types of things that, that we're going to do with the community. And I think Sooner Nation likes to be a family. And I think that's kind of something that we want to do. And this is kind of our way to get the voice out there the easiest. And I think we're going to improve. My internet's been having issues. So that's why we're using Discord. But I think eventually we're going to have video and, do some other things. And so I think this is just going to be a journey. Everyone go with us. But I'm excited, and I appreciate you guys doing this with me.
All right, Flex, you got your food take for me?
Do what?
You got the food take for me?
Oh, let's do a food take. Well, enchiladas are amazing. Let's just start there.
That, my friend, is fake news.
Big shout out to our guy, Big Al.
Big Al is also a huge enthusiast of enchiladas.
Do not let them lie to you.
All right, Graham, what do you got?
Good one. I think most Mexican food is overrated. I think that people think that bad Mexican food is good all the time. Hate to kind of dig my town, but for example, Joe T. Garcia's most overrated Mexican food restaurant in the world.
I just want to clarify so everyone doesn't hate Grim the moment we start the pod. He's not saying Mexican food is overrated. He's saying a lot of bad food is rated as good.
A bunch of bad Mexican food is rated.
Grim almost made our whole community hate him day one.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of overrated Mexican food out there. That's what I'll say.
And now for the finale, we got Nate's take.
Oh God, here we go.
Oh boy. Okay, I'm gonna try and make this one spicy for you guys. Chips and salsa, very overrated.
Dear God, I knew it was gonna be bad.
I mean, I even tried to help out Grim, man. And I don't know, there's nothing
I
can't.
That's bad, man. That's bad.
Grim, you know that's the worst food take I've had.
No,
well, now you know who the
That's
heel of the show is going to be.
Some of Nate's food takes are mind-boggling.
His football takes are much better than his food takes.
Yeah, thank gosh.
Which is good. Well, I appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next one.